Hello, true duelists. My name's Craig Fee, and as always, welcome to the New Card Report, the series we make because the update's too long as it is. This one doesn't have a theme, it's just fucking random shit that exists and they put it out. It's three cards. Let's take a look at them. There's 3 cards. Up first is a new trap card from the upcoming structure deck, the Crimson King. The Crimson Chin. The Fiendish Golem is a new normal trap card that targets a monster with 2,000 or more attack and banishes it until the end phase of the next turn. And if you controlled either Red Dragon Archfiend or a monster that mentions it, when you activate this card, you can then set a copy of Fiendish Chain directly from your deck. Holy mackerel! That's not even once per turn! That's right, you could potentially banish 3 whole monsters for 1 turn and set 3 copies of Fiendish Chain that you won't be able to activate this turn to actually disrupt the opponent. That's sick! You know, the opponent. Why can't you activate them? Fiendish Chain is a card that's been outdated since ballpark 2015. Like, I remember early Teller builds playing it in Duelist Alliance format, but I've barely seen it moving forward. So, I don't know. Why does the banished monster have to come back? Why? I feel like I'm going to be told it's because it's an anime reference, and I don't really care for that because it's not really an excuse, because they've printed cards from the anime and made them good. Being from the anime doesn't inherently mean that it has to be bad. I'm just saying I have to meaningfully control Red Dragon Archfiend or a monster that mentions it to get the bonus effect. Why can't it just be a little like Karma Cut? Is that outrageous? Is that obscene? I don't know. I don't think so. As it stands to me, this is mediocre temporary removal that searches a card that got power crept in 2014, nearly a decade ago. But hey, at least this gives us a full warning in advance that we will be getting a reprint of Fiendish Chain in the next structure deck. So that is a cool heads up from Konami. That's, compared to the communication we get in regards to the ban list, this is as crystal clear of messaging as we've ever received. So really, can we complain? Yes, I just did. On to the next card. A new Firelink 2 monster from a manga in the OCG. No idea when we'll be getting it, but I do know that Flame Tongue, the blazing magical blade, is a Warrior Link 2 with 1400 attack and arrows pointing bottom left and bottom right. It only needs any 2 fire monsters to summon it and has 2 effects. The first will make your face-up spell and trap cards indestructible by the opponent's card effects, and once per turn it can target one of your banished monsters, that is of fire attribute, and add it to your hand, but doing so means that you can't activate the effects of cards with that name for the rest of the turn. Against all odds, for the first time in God knows how long, a Fire Warrior card is out that doesn't just support Infernoble. Wild, I know. This is pretty much straight up volcanic support of sorts, or at least that's the general vibe most are agreeing on. And because I do agree, I'm incredibly biased towards that deck. I don't care to think about this card's applications in, like, I don't know, Salamangreat could recover a Spinny with this. Infernoid have spell and traps and are all fire and banish each other. So, you know, there's usage in Infernoid as well, maybe. But does that matter to me compared to Scattershot Go Boom? Not even remotely. But I have mentioned it at the very least. And there's the fact that it only locks the effects for the rest of the turn, meaning that if you Scattershot before using its second effect to recover the banished Scattershot, doesn't matter. I've already wiped the board, baby. I'm fine with that. And really, most importantly, this looks like Gallantmon, which is one of my favorite decks in the TCG for Digimon that I sometimes play. So it has that going for it too, which is objectively the most important, because Gallantmon's a pretty cool guy. He kills viruses and doesn't afraid of anything. Did I remember that joke properly? I don't know. It's no longer 2007 and Halo just is not relevant. So yeah, that's a cool looking card. On to number 3. And also this week, the V-Jump promo for Spooky Future Fusion. The impact Future Fusion had on the game was straight up nutter butter, and that's to use the scientific term. So this card has some big shoes to fill, and did it ever fill them? With shit! This shit in the shoes of and on the legacy of Future Fusion. Over Future Fusion here is a continuous spell that lets you activate one of two effects once per turn. Either you can show one fusion monster from your extra deck to send to the graveyard one monster whose name is listed as material on the revealed fusion from the deck to the grave, but for the rest of the turn, that monsters and monsters with the same name cannot be special summoned or activate their effects. Or alternatively, you can banish monsters from your grave to fusion summon a Dark Machine monster. Now, the second effect is Overload Fusion that can't banish from the field, and also, I guess, loses to Ghost Ogre, maybe, if I'm remembering properly. It's been a long day. Either way, it's an objectively worse Overload Fusion, so we don't have to talk about it. Just if you're going to play that, just play Overload Fusion. So let's get on to the first effect. Now, it's pretty clear from the Dark Machine ties in this card and the fact that the person who played it in the anime, but if you aren't aware, this card is meant, with some amount of quotations, 14 on each side if you're curious, to be used with Cyber Dragon. So this does let you foolish exactly Cyber Dragon, because you need to send a monster named on the fusion that you reveal, so only Cyber Dragon is the option. And this is where comedy becomes real, because Cyber Dragon as a deck is comprised of monsters who all have effects that make their names on the field and in the graveyard become Cyber Dragon. So when you use that first effect where it says you can't special summon or activate the effects of, that applies to all your monsters in your main deck because they're all Cyber Dragon. If you use this, you are effectively turbo skill draining yourself. Who designed this? Who okayed this effect? What the fuck is going on? Yes, this can technically be a card to play in other decks using Dark Fusion Machine monsters, which I had to Google while writing this script because despite that being a fairly generic term, that is still surprisingly niche. And beyond what? Gatling Dragon Turbo? Would Ancient Gear really want to play? Ancient Gear doesn't need this shit. They already have Ancient Gear Fusion for themselves. They just want to summon out the big bungus and attack 78 times and do their OTK that they always do. They don't need this fucking thing. It's just objectively terrible. But you know what? That's really just being consistent with GX card design, isn't it? Because Future Fusion really is an oddball in regards to the overall history of the game from GX, because GX released dog shit cards that were almost entirely unplayable, with the exception of like the good Destiny heroes, and that's about it. And like Stratos, so like the good heroes, but like the majority of GX things suck. And this took the one card and the one archetype that didn't suck and ruined it. So kudos to Konami for keeping up the legacy of GX. Really, it's just beautiful to think about a card that if the opponent plays it and you can Ghost Ogre it to stop it, you're better off not Ghost Ogring it, because them using that card is gonna hurt them more than your Ghost Ogre. That's insane. Brilliant card design, 12 out of 10. And so now that I've had a minor brain aneurysm trying to comprehend that dog shit Future Fusion retrain shit on, let's get to the sponsor, because I'm going to give shoutouts to the team at LIFD for sponsoring my channel with none other than the LIFD Magnetic Display, the true duelist approved way to showcase that sick new support for Fiendish Chain that is only slightly above unplayable in my eyes, because it's a great look. You could display all three of them when you buy the 3 structure decks, because Lord knows you aren't going to be putting them in your actual deck. So go ahead and use my promo code YGOStrats15 for 15% off, or you can have the discount apply automatically by clicking the link in the description of this video. Thank you to the LIFD team for the support as always, and thank you for watching. And so that'll wrap it up for today's new card report. Just covering the new cards in this one. The regular update will be out on Friday as usual. Why am I talking like this? God only knows. As always, I've been your host, Craig Fee, and make sure you subscribe to Yugioh Strats. For next week's update, this week's update, last week's update, to impress your smoking Italian wife, to make your smoking Italian wife say wow, and to make your smoking Italian wife go, I'm impressed now, and above all else, so you too can be a true duelist.